Good morning, students. This is the second part of the explanation of the play Box and Cox by John Madison Morton. So, in this part, we will continue with page number 68 and 69. Let us begin our class. So, in part 1 of the explanation of this play Box and Cox, I already told you all about the author, the characters, and we started this first scene. And we came to know about John Box, James Cox, and Mrs. Bouncer. And even we came to know that Mrs. Bouncer was the lodging housekeeper and she was renting these two different lodgers. And at that time, when we saw Mr. Cox for the first time, he was being ready for his office, and he had a conversation with Mrs. Bouncer about his bolster, that it was not proper in shape, and he wanted Mrs. Bouncer to change that bolster so that he could sleep properly. Now, in page number 66, page number 68, we will continue from that part where we left in part 1 of the video. Now let us read. Mrs. B. Anything to accommodate you, Mr. Cox. Cox, thank you. Then perhaps you will be good enough to hold this glass while I finish my toilet. Mrs. B. Certainly, holding glass before Cox, who ties his tie. Why do I declare you have had a haircut? Now see, Mrs. Bouncer, when she came to know that Mr. Cox is complaining about the bolster which she provided him, she told that she can provide him with another one. That is why she replied that anything to accommodate you, Mr. Cox, means she is willing to give him a new one so that she could make him comfortable. Now Cox replied, or Cox said thank you, that it will be good enough, and he asked Mrs. Bouncer to hold that glass which he was holding in one of his hand, and he was being ready for his office, so it was also difficult for him to hold one glass in one of his hand and being ready for his office. So he asked Mrs. Bouncer to hold that glass, and he told her that he wanted to finish his toilet. Toilet doesn't mean to go to the bathroom, but here it refers that he will completely dress himself properly. So Mrs. Bouncer will be holding that mirror, and he will stand in front of the mirror and look into that, and he will dress properly. So as we all do when we ready ourselves to come to college, we stand in front of a mirror to look ourselves at whether we look proper or not. Before while dressing up, we see whether we look or not. So in that way, actually, Mrs. Bouncer will be holding that glass, and Mr. Cox will finish it up, his dressings. Now Mrs. Bouncer, while she was holding that glass and Mr. Cox was tying his tie, at that time Mrs. Bouncer noticed that Mr. Cox had a haircut. And in the first video, we came to know that Mr. Cox had a haircut, and he told us that the hairdresser misunderstood him, as he told him clearly to cut only the ends, but since he misunderstood it, he cut the other ends of the hair, and he almost became bald here. His hair became very short here. So Mrs. Bouncer noticed that, and she asked him that you had a haircut. Then Cox, he was quite conscious of his look, and he knew that he was not looking very good, and so he replied to Mrs. Bouncer that cut, it strikes me I have had mode. It's very kind of you to mention it, but I am sufficiently conscious of the absurdity of my personal appearance already. Puts on his coat. Now for my hat. Put on his hat, which comes over his eyes. That's the effect of having one's hair cut. This hat fitted me quite tight before. Luckily, I have got 2 or 3 more. Goes it at the left and returns with 3 hats of different shapes and puts them on, one after the other, all of which are too big for him. Now, Mr. Cox, when Mrs. Bouncer told him that you had a haircut, he said, no, this is not called a haircut. I have just mowed it. Mowed it means I have just removed it completely. And I am very kind that you have mentioned it, but I know, and I am sufficiently conscious about my looks, that how bad I am looking actually. That is why he said that I am sufficiently conscious of the absurdity of my personal appearance, because I know that this type of haircut does not suit me. So now he put on his coat and now he was searching for his hat. Now see, Mr. Cox, he was a hatter, and it is very evident that he will definitely have lots of hats of different shapes and sizes, colors and all. So now it's time for him to put on his hat, and he just went to the left hand side where there was his wardrobe, and from that wardrobe he bought 2 or 3 hats. And when he was trying his hat, he found that those hats actually did not fit him properly. Earlier those hats were clearly for him only, it fitted him very properly, but now since his hair is completely gone, so it became quite loose. And since he got 2 or 3 more, he wanted to try those different hats so that to find out whether those hats properly fitted him or not. So he went to the left hand side of the wardrobe, he brought out different shapes, hats of different shapes, and he tried. And all of those hats which he tried were too big for him. Now see here, this is pleasant, never mind. This one appears to me to ogle about rather less than the others. Puts on hat. And now I am off. By the by, Mrs. Bouncer, I wish to call your attention to a fact that has been evident to me for some time past, and that is that my coals go remarkably fast. Now see, we saw that Mr. Cox was trying his hats, and he found out that among all those 3 hats, one of it fitted him properly. Not exactly properly, but it quite fitted well. So when he found out that one which fitted him well, he said that it's almost, this is the one actually who doesn't, which one actually doesn't oval about. Oval means which doesn't move around, it moves less. So he puts on that hat and he was almost ready to go, and at that point of time something strikes his mind, and he wanted to tell Mrs. Bouncer about that. So he called Mrs. Bouncer and he told that I wanted to bring into your attention, since I noticed it from some days, I have noticed it that my things are actually day by day it's diminishing very fast, and since I don't stay in this room, I don't use them, I exactly do not know how they are remarkably going very fast. I exactly don't know. So he told Mrs. Bouncer that I actually wanted to bring it to your attention, or I wanted to tell you like how my things are actually diminishing, or how my things are finishing so fast. Now, when this came in, when this was heard by Mrs. Bouncer, so Mrs. Bouncer, overreacted. She knew exactly like what is happening, but she overreacted. She told Mrs. B. Mrs. B now actually tells to Mr. Cox, Lord Mr. Cox, Cox, it is not the case only with the coals, Mrs. Bouncer, but I have lately observed a gradual and steady increase of evaporation among my candles, wood, sugar and matches. Now Mrs. Bouncer, when she heard that, she tried to overreact it, that she even didn't know anything about it. She reacted in that way. But now Mr. Cox tells her that actually it's not only about my coals, it's about everything which I have brought it in, or which I have it in my room, like my candles, my woods, my sugar and matches. These things I have never used them for some time, but I find it that these things are evaporating very soon. It seems that someone is using my stuff. So he complained it, and he knew that in that house apart from Mrs. Bouncer and him, no one stays, and there is a cat, and he thinks that a cat doesn't use such things, and he actually suspects that Mrs. Bouncer is the only person actually who is using his stuff. That's why he was indirectly telling Mrs. Bouncer that my things are diminishing. So he wanted to bring into the notice of Mrs. Bouncer. Now Mrs. Bouncer, she said, Mrs. Bouncer, Lord Mr. Cox, you surely don't suspect me. Now Mrs. Bouncer got to know that Mr. Cox is suspecting her. So she said that, are you suspecting me? Then Cox, I don't say I do, Mrs. B. Only I wish you distinctly to understand that I don't believe it's the cat. As I already told you all, now Mr. Cox, he knew that in that house Mrs. Bouncer and only Cox stays, but he is quite ignorant of the fact that the other person is also living here. He is completely ignorant about that. So he only thinks that Mrs. Bouncer and he lives in that house, and he knows apart from them a cat is there, and he clearly tells that a cat doesn't use such stuff. Okay, so indirectly he is actually suspecting Mrs. Bouncer. Alright, so Mrs. B, is there anything else you have got to grumble about, sir? Cox grumble, Mrs. Bouncer? Do you possess such a thing as a dictionary? Mrs. Bouncer, no, sir. Now, Mrs. Bouncer is really overreacting here and she's trying to act that she doesn't know anything about all these things, and she thinks that Mr. Cox is actually complaining without any reason. That is why she told him that Mr. Cox, do you have anything else to grumble about, sir? So, grumble here means when you complain without any reason. And when Mr. Cox heard this word grumble, he got angry and he told Mrs. Bouncer that do you think or don't you know the meaning of this word grumble? Do you think that I'm complaining you without any reason? That is why he told that grumble, Mrs. Bouncer, do you possess such a thing as a dictionary? Do you know the meaning of this word grumble? Or do you have a dictionary where you can open it up and look into this word grumble? Mrs. Bouncer, she replied, no, sir. Means Mrs. Bouncer, she doesn't have a dictionary. Okay, and according to Cox, he was not complaining without any reason. He had definitely solid reasons to complain. Alright? Okay. Now see Cox, then I will lend you one, and if you turn to the letter G, you will find grumble, verb neuter, to complain without a cause. Now that's not my case, Mrs. B, and now that we are upon the subject, I wish to know how it is that I frequently find my apartment full of smoke. Now when Mr. Cox asked Mrs. Bouncer that whether you have a dictionary or not, then she replied no, that she didn't. Then Mr. Cox told her that if you don't have a dictionary, I will definitely lend you one, and in that dictionary, open the letter G and find the word grumble. And there, when you open that dictionary and see the word grumble, you'll come to know that I am not complaining without any cause. Definitely, I have solid reasons. I know that my stuffs are diminishing. That is why I am complaining. So he knew that he has some solid reasons for complaining it. And since this topic came out, he even wanted to tell Mrs. Bouncer another thing, that he frequently finds his apartment full of smoke, but like when he used to return back, he finds that someone is using his room and his room gets filled up with smoke. So Mrs. Bouncer, why? I suppose the chimney. Then Mrs. Bouncer said when she heard about that smoke, she told Mr. Cox that Mr. Cox, don't you have a chimney in your room? And when you lit the fire in the chimney, from that chimney actually the smoke comes. Then Cox, the chimney doesn't smoke tobacco. I am speaking of tobacco smoke, Mrs. B. And I hope, Mrs. Bouncer, you are not guilty of cherots or cubas. Now Mr. Cox precisely said that actually the chimney, the smoke which is filled up, which I find filled up in my room, is actually smoke of tobacco, and I don't think that this chimney smokes tobacco. And he now accuses Mrs. Bouncer that are you guilty of cherots or cubas? Cherots of cubas, these are cigars. These are some tobacco stuff actually, which now Mr. Cox tells Mrs. Bouncer that are you guilty of smoking cherots or cubas in my room? Now Mrs. Bouncer, no, not I indeed, Mr. Cox. Cox, not partial to a pipe. Now Mrs. Bouncer completely negates that she doesn't even smoke cherots or cubas in his room. And now Cox again tells her that don't you smoke a little bit or a partial to a pipe? Mrs. Bouncer, no sir. Cox, then how is it, Mrs. Bouncer? Then how is it? Definitely he wants a reason like why or how his room gets filled up with tobacco smoke. Mrs. Bouncer, why, I suppose yes, that must be it. Right? So Cox, at present I am entirely of your opinion because I haven't the most distinct idea of exactly what you mean. Now like what Mrs. Bouncer is actually trying to say, he can't figure it out. So at last he said that I exactly do not know what you're trying to say or what kind of a thing you are trying to make me understand here. Mrs. Bouncer, why, the gentleman who has got the attics is hardly ever without a pipe in his mouth, and there he sits with his feet upon the mantelpiece. Now actually Mrs. Bouncer is trying to give some excuses, or like he is trying to say that she is not the person who is smoking in his room, or she is not the person who is not using his stuff. Actually now she is trying to give some other excuses. So she tells regarding this smoke which remains filled up in his room, she tells that actually this is the gentleman who has got or who has a room in the attics or who lives in the attic, and that man or the gentleman who stays in that attic, he is hardly without a pipe. He is hardly without a pipe means he's always with a pipe in his mouth, and he sits in the mantelpiece of the chimney and he used to smoke. So mantelpiece actually here refers to some sort of a shelf, okay, some sort of a shelf or some sort of a stand or a slab upon that chimney. And she wants to tell Mr. Cox that that man who stays in the attic used to sit in that mantelpiece which is above the chimney, and he used to smoke every day. Now Cox actually, it became quite, he couldn't believe it, like this sort of a thing, like what Mrs. Bouncer was trying to make him believe. So he said, the mantelpiece, that strike me as being a considerable stretch either of your imagination, Mrs. Bouncer, or the gentleman's leg. I presume you mean the fender or the hob. Now when she told that that this person who stays in the attic used to sit in the mantelpiece, now like it is very, now Mr. Cox, he told that it's very difficult for me to imagine also, or I just can't even believe in your imagination, or whether you are telling it right or wrong, I exactly don't know. But are you trying to tell that mantelpiece is the fender or the hob? So it is hob or a fender exactly means a metal shelf next to a fireplace. Now when you burn the chimney on, that metal shelf or the hob becomes too hot, and it is quite weird also to think that a person sitting in a mantelpiece or a fender or a hob sitting there and smoking with a pipe. It's quite difficult for him to believe that. So he is quite not convinced with the idea what Mrs. Bouncer is trying to say. So Mrs. Bouncer, sometimes one, sometimes the other, well, there he sits for hours and puffs away into the fireplace. Now Mrs. Bouncer, she is also quite ridiculous, and she is also telling such things which is very difficult for Mr. Cox to believe. Now she tells that sometimes actually one or two, or sometimes or the other, he used to sit there, and when he sits there, he sits for hours. And what he does actually is that when he smokes, he used to puff away into the fireplace. So he will sit and he will puff away by lowering down his head into the chimney. That is also quite difficult for him to believe. Now Cox, then you mean to say that this gentleman smoke, instead of emulating the example of all other sorts of smoke in going up the chimney, thinks proper to effect a singularity by taking the contrary direction. Now see, we all know that smoke always goes upwards, it's never come downwards. But now what Mrs. Bouncer is trying to convince Mr. Cox is that this man who sits in the fob or the fender, he smokes and he puffs his smoke downwards, and smokes does not flow downwards, it always moves upwards. So Mr. Cox tells us that, are you trying to tell me certain things, that this kind of a smoke moves in a contrary direction or in an opposite direction? But as we all know, or we have seen the examples of all sorts of smoke, they always go upwards rather than going down. So this was very difficult for him to believe that this kind of a smoke usually goes down, or it comes down through the chimney to his room. So in this part, I have explained page number 68 and 69, and from these two pages, these are some important words. So accommodate, it means please. Wobble about, move unsteadily from side to side. By the way, starting a new topic. Cherots or cubas, cigars. Fender, a low metal frame round an open fireplace. Hob, a metal shelf next to a fireplace. Now see, these are some important focus questions which you will get from page number 68 and 69. So as I have explained it, I hope it is quite clear to you all, or you'll have understood clearly. Okay, I'll discuss it one by one. Now question number 1, why does Cox suspect is using his stuff? Give evidences from the play. So why Cox was actually suspecting, and who? He was suspecting Mrs. Bouncer. That what was he suspecting about? That his stuff, coals, wood, sugar, matches, all these things were diminishing very fast, even after not using it. So he believed that he and Mrs. Bouncer lived in that house. So if he did not use it, it is definitely Mrs. Bouncer who is using his stuff. So you have to give some evidences, examples from the chapter, how actually why he is suspecting Mrs. Bouncer for using his stuff. So you have to write it for 4 marks. Question number 2. What does Mr. Cox wishes to lend Mrs. Bouncer? He wishes to lend Mrs. Bouncer a dictionary so that she could look the meaning of the word grumble. Question number 3. What does Mr. Cox mean by saying that that's not my case? So that's not my case means he is not complaining without any reason. Definitely he had some solid reasons to complain to Mrs. Bouncer. Question number 4. What does Cox mean by I hope you are not guilty of Cherots or Cubas? So like when Mr. Cox complained to Mrs. Bouncer about the smoke which remained filled up in his room when he came back, so he was suspecting here Mrs. Bouncer that she smokes Cherots or Cubas. Number 5. Why does Cox feel that Mrs. Bouncer is guilty of Cherots or Cubas? Now definitely Mr. Cox will suspect Mrs. Bouncer of being guilty of Cherots or Cubas because it is only Mrs. Bouncer and Mr. Cox who lives in that house. So if Mr. Cox doesn't smoke, then definitely it would be Mrs. Bouncer. So why does Cox say this gentleman's direction? So this gentleman's direction, it is in that last paragraph of page number 69 where he basically talks about the smoke when Mrs. Bouncer told Mr. Cox that he used to puff down the chimney when he smoked a pipe. So emulating all other examples of smoke which goes up, he told that he actually Mrs. Bouncer actually tried to make him believe that this man's uh, puffing of the smoke moves in a contrary direction. So you will find this line in the last paragraph of page number 69. So with this I will end up my today's class, and in the next video we'll continue with page number 70, 71 and 72, and I'll explain those remaining parts there, and we will discuss some important questions. So with this I end my class. Thank you.